So the big question for a lot of people right now is what should be the definitive handheld they pick up that's a Windows-based handheld? Should it be the ROG Ally or should it be the Lenovo Legion Go, which we're going to call the Lego? I know that's it works, so just go with it. So within this video, as well as it being a podcast, we're going to answer that question for you. Let's get into it. Hello everyone, this is Mekel Kasanova, host of DeckedUP, a gaming and tech podcast, and I'm back today to talk about which is the better overall value, the Asus ROG Ally or the Lenovo Legion Go, aka the Lego. Yeah, we're going to go with that name. So when talking about these two devices, we need to talk about what each one does individually that makes it seem very important. And also we need to talk about what makes them very fundamentally different from each other. I mean, they're both Windows-based gaming handhelds, but there are a lot of things underneath the hood that makes them stand out and a lot of things that make them stand shoulder to shoulder. So before we dive into that, if you're listening to this podcast on any of the major podcasting outlets and you haven't already, then make sure you follow the show, share it around someone else, and leave a rating and a comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, then make sure you like the video, share the video around, as well as comment and let me know what your feedback is. And if you want to support the show, we got Patreon, we got channel memberships that gets you early and exclusive access to content, heads up on what we're working on, as well as input and more as to what we do on the show, as well as the usual YouTube videos. So all that being aside, let's go ahead and talk about the Lego and the Ally. So first thing we're going to talk about is the ROG Ally. This is a device that came out about 6 months ago at the time of this recording, and I had it the day it came out. And I have to say, I absolutely love the device because it literally gave me everything that I wanted the Steam Deck to give me, but it just couldn't. I mean, I had access to being able to play everything on my library from Steam, as well as from Epic Game Store, GOG, and so much more. And I know that there are workarounds and tinkering that you could do to get that to run on the Steam Deck, but there's always so many different issues with Proton compatibility layers and all this other stuff that I just got tired of dealing with. When you are with a toddler all day long, you're not going to want to deal with it. Yes, I'm a stay-at-home full-time dad, as well as being a full-time podcaster, content creator, and so many other hats that I wear. But anyways, I want to be able to play my games when I want to play them without having to do as much tinkering. I know there's a bit of hypocrisy there because when it comes to Windows and PC gaming, you typically have to do a lot of tinkering. But for me, I've really had to do very little of that when it came to the ROG Ally. So when I got that, I was able to play my games really without a hitch. Adding to that was the fact that for me, someone who loves playing fighting games and loves playing platformers, they ran perfectly fine on it. And on top of the fact that I was able to use the D-pad, which I personally feel to be one of the best D-pads on any of these handhelds. It allowed me to really pull off a lot of the moves that I like to do. Like my standard for playing any fighting game is going to be putting it up against the King of Fighters. So I play a lot of KOF 15, KOF 2002, KOF 98, and KOF 11. And my main character is Kyo Kusanagi, who is typically the main character of this franchise. And he does what's called Rekka punches or chain punches. And these are done by doing various inputs. So like, just think of them, I guess, in the simplest way of me talking about it, the fireball motion, and then kind of like a half circle back and more, and which, you know, you combine that with punches and kicks and you can do various inputs. And that's the character that I utilize if I want to know if a D-pad is really good, because if I can easily pull out the Rekka punches, then I know this is going to be my go-to. So for all the fighting games that I played, not only King of Fighters, but Samurai Showdown, Street Fighter, Guilty Gear, BlazBlue, and so many more, that was the definitive D-pad that I was using. I mean, the Steam Deck was great, but this was so much better. And then when it came to playing platformer games, I absolutely had no issues with that, or with playing retro style games as well. It was just perfect. I know it being the disc shape means that it flows and rotates a lot better than the typical, cross or, the standard D-pad that we're all used to. So that right there was a big selling point to me. And then on top of that was the triggers. Now I know the triggers on the Steam Deck, and this is really not trying to be a Steam Deck versus Ally video. I've already done something like that. But the thing with the triggers on the Steam Deck is I didn't feel they were the greatest, especially when I was playing shooters. Like, they were fundamentally good, but they weren't as really what I was looking for. Now, when I was playing on the ROG Ally, I really felt like I was utilizing a Xbox style trigger. Everything felt good. And it's because on the ROG Ally, it does use the Hall effect triggers, which we're going to get to that in a minute, because I feel like if you're going to put Hall effect triggers on your device, you might as well put Hall effect sticks on there so you can avoid stick drift issues. But we'll get to that, trust me. And so with that being on there, like me, whatever I was playing from Doom 2016 to Doom Eternal, Call of Duty, Halo, and so much more, everything just felt perfect, at least for me. I'm not one of those people that's going to be like going into all the nitty gritty of the details, because look, I got kids. I don't have that kind of time to play like that. But for me, it did everything that I absolutely wanted it to do. And it just felt really good. It's very grippy. The texture felt great. And then other thing, I want to talk about the buttons, because I felt like the buttons were really something that a lot of people criticize, and they felt like they just felt mushy or they got stuck. I actually never ran into that issue with the ROG Ally when it came to the buttons. They felt very good. And maybe in comparison to the Steam Deck's buttons, they didn't feel as like pronounced, but I thought they felt very good. Like, I pressed them and boom, they were doing what I wanted them to do. And so I really had no complaints about the buttons whatsoever. And the other thing I want to talk about is the sticks. So the thing is, when it comes to the analog sticks on the ROG Ally, they do sit a bit raised. And if you're seeing mine, they look a little bit different. It's because I'm using some Control Freaks, the limited edition Call of Duty sticks that go on the top of them. They just pop right on and off. Now, you don't really need these on there. I just use it for when I'm playing Call of Duty competitively. But as it is, I think the analog sticks are great. They're very responsive, very snappy. The only thing for me was that sometimes I felt like when I'm using the sticks, I would accidentally, this is before I put the grip sticks on, I felt like I would accidentally touch the screen. That's very, very annoying and kept happening. But since I put these on here, I'm not having that issue whatsoever anymore at all. But other than that, I felt like everything was great as far as the layout of it. Now, the ergonomics of it, I will say, in many aspects, it's comfortable, and in many ways, it's not. I kind of feel like at times I'm like, this could be a little bit more comfortable if they made this a little bit more ergonomic. Maybe round off the edges where your palms are resting, or give me a little bit more grip. I know a lot of other criticisms that the ROG Ally got was the customizable modular button on the back that you can map to really just being about anything. A lot of people criticize that at first, saying it didn't feel natural, but the thing is, when you're holding it, you're going to hold it like this, and then you're naturally going to touch it with this finger, your middle finger. So it's just going to be able to depress, and I never had any issues with it. That's the thing. Like, you're going to notice that trend with me. A lot of things that a lot of people complain about, I don't personally find issue with. Maybe that makes me weird or not. I don't really fucking care. It is what it is. But it's, I never found an issue with it. And also, here's the thing. If you want to pick up one of these, I've got the Ally Mate, which gives you a kickstand, as well as allowing you to put the micro SD cards, which I know the Ally and the micro SD card, that's always a point of contention, but it is what it is. But if you want one, it gives you the kickstand type thing. Look in the link down below in the description and use my code to get a discount on it. So yeah, that's a little plug. Use that because I use it on mine all the time. All that being said, though, going back to it, the screen. The screen is absolutely gorgeous. I love the way the screen looks. I love the way how it has that 120 refresh rate, and it's got the VRR, which to me, with a lot of games that I've played that do have fluctuating refresh rates, I noticed it and I thought it was actually pretty decent. I can't really knock it for what it is. And 1080p screen, being able to run 1080p, and typically what I like to do is run 1080p at, if I can do 45, I will, or 40 hertz, I'll do that. But if I can't do that, then 1080p 60 is fine with me. Even if I can knock it down to 800p, I'll do that. But 1080p 60 FPS has been pretty much the standard for me with this device. I mean, I very rarely run into things that can't run well on it. So yeah, and I'm not out here trying to play Cyberpunk 2077 like, that's the main game I'm going to, because I don't really I don't really care about that game that much. It is what it is. But it's just not my type of game. But the other thing with this too, I want to talk about the speakers. This has the best speakers on any handheld PC that I've used, which, the Steam Deck, this, and the Lego. These are the loudest speakers out there. They are absolutely phenomenal. I love what they're capable of doing. Whether I'm like consuming media on it, like watching TV shows, which again is the whole point of using like Ally Mate. Using the Ally Mate, which has another name, which will pop up on the screen. Sorry about that. Sorry, Siri, if I'm using the old name. It is what it is. But yeah, so you know, consuming media, playing games, it just front facing, it hits you. It sounds so good. I love it. Plus RGB on the sticks, I think is really cool. I like the way that works. And other than that though, I never really had issues with it overheating. I know a lot of people talked about having heating issues with their ROG Ally. I never personally had issues with that. The only thing I've had issues with is the microSD card reader, which mine's, I've done at least 2 RMAs so far, and the microSD card issue just doesn't work for me properly. And I just stopped using it. So one of the things, and that's a big point of contention for a lot of people, is the microSD card issue with this. And workarounds for that is just literally to either put a 2 terabyte or 1 terabyte M.2 SSD in it, which is a 2230, or getting the right angle adapter, or it's an L-shaped adapter, and putting a 2240 or 2242 SSD in there, putting up to like 4 terabytes in it, and that should be more than enough for a lot of people. I plan to do that. I just have not had the time, and that's a running theme. I haven't had the time to do a lot of that. So I eventually plan to do that because I'm going to keep this device for, however long it will run, which will be years, and I'll keep using that just like I'll keep using the Lego. So there's that. Then there's also the factor of being able to use the external GPU or the eGPU and making this a full-featured, powered, like all-in-one desktop. You can use it connected to your monitors, do multiple monitor outputs. You can put a 40 series card, 30 series card, or if you want to put, Ryzen, AMD cards in there, you can, and do so, and pretty much you've got one very powerful. Now, a lot of people are saying like, if you're gonna buy that, you might as well just build yourself a computer. And here's the thing, I understand people like to say that, and maybe to a lot of people it makes sense, but you really have to understand, for a lot of people, what makes sense to you doesn't make sense to everyone else. And if people want to spend money on something, let them do what the hell they want to do with their money. It's their right, their choice. It's not yours, it's not your money. It is what it is. If someone asks you and you give them advice and they decide to do whatever they're going to do anyway, it is what it is. But yeah, having external GPU support on this, and then being able to pretty much make this even more powerful than what it already is absolutely crazy, because it takes a lot of the load off the device itself and puts it on the external GPU, and you can go from there. Now, other than that, I love the fact that it has a fingerprint sensor on it, so you can like pretty much tap or press and hold, and you can unlock your ROG Ally just by putting your finger on the fingerprint sensor. It's the only one that has that out of the major ones that are available on the market right now. And yeah, I just did an update, so it's going through this whole new thing, so I'm just skipping all this because it's not important. Anyways, as far as the downside, I know initially for a lot of people, the Armory crate wasn't that great initially, it was very buggy. And my thing is with any of these softwares, when it's the first device and it's the first time they're putting out this type of, application and software for a new handheld device, you can't really expect it to be working perfectly out of the gate. Steam Deck wasn't great out of the gate either. So, temper your expectations. Yeah, they could be running a lot better than what they are, many aspects, but, a lot of times you got to work with it. So it is what it is. But, Armory Crate has come a long way. I think it's really great now. It's really, super responsive. I just press it and like I can pull up my command center so I can change my TDP settings, control mode, either desktop, gamepad, or auto, game profiles, keyboard, AMD RSR, all the other stuff, show desktop, everything is like instantaneous on this, whereas it wasn't like that before. I can quickly go back and forth between, you know, Army Crate and my desktop, just like that. It's come so far. Another thing I love about Armory Crate is I don't feel like it's literally a giant billboard advertising game sales. Like, let's just be honest, the Lego kind of does that with Legion Space, and we'll get to that eventually. But the software and the package as a whole, my micro SD card, is very solid. Battery life, let's talk about that. It's got a decent battery life. It's a bigger battery than the original Steam Deck, but unfortunately, because it is a more powerful device, it burns through it. You typically want to, if you're playing a AAA title, and this, I'm going to use this logic in general because I don't really think a lot of people do this, but if you are playing a AAA title and you are going to play that on battery, even if you play it on a laptop, you're not going to get much battery life out of that. These are devices meant to be played in when you're playing very demanding AAA titles. Now, yesteryear AAA titles, no issue. I know a lot of people are like, yeah, well, just, you should be able to play it however long. You can just tinker with the TDP or the thermal wattages and go from there. That's also going to affect performance. So you got to keep that in mind, right? So, when it comes down to that, I'm I'm a stay-at-home dad. I rarely travel, so this doesn't go anywhere with me outside of going room to room. And for what I'm gonna play on it, it does very well. Emulated games, AAA games, indie games, AA games. Yesteryear titles. Everything runs fine for me, and performance has been great on it. Minus micro SD card issue. So overall, the ROG Ally, I think, is a very solid choice if you don't care about the micro SD card issue or the battery life not being that great. So, all that being said, I am going to leave the Ally there. It's a great, great, great choice. Now, let's talk about the Lenovo Legion Go. So, this device, bigger device overall. It's got an 8.8 screen. It's got a 2K resolution screen. It has a 144 hertz screen too. So it's got the highest refresh rate amongst the Steam Deck OLED, the Ally, and it, right? So you're looking at 60, 90, 120, 144. So keep that in mind. The screen looks great, looks very vibrant. It's brilliant. I love it. It may not match an OLED, but I think it looks good for what it is. And then let's talk about the fact, the elephant in the room. It's got the kickstand built into it, so that's already a leg up. It's got dual USB-C ports, so you can charge. And if you want to use something like I use, anything from like the Steel Series Arctis headsets, which use Type-C inputs. I even use the Razer Hammerhead, which uses Type-C as well. So I can charge and use that at the same time versus needing to have a dongle to be able to use both. So I love that about it. Two USB-C ports, or just USB-C and a dedicated USB Type-A, I think should be the standard on these devices. So absolutely love it for that. And then the other thing, the detachable Joy-Cons. That's also great that you're able to like detach the Joy-Cons. I know they're not called Joy-Cons, but I'm just gonna, to me, that's what they are. That's what everyone calls them. But the fact that they're detachable and like I can prop this up, when I'm laying on bed, right? Typically, I may have said this before, but we have a Japanese futon, right? So we sleep on the floor, and it's just we prefer that, especially when you have had kids like babies and toddlers, and they like to roll. It's that kind of shifted us to getting the Japanese futon. So we sleep on the floor, right? So I can lay on the floor, prop it up in the kickstand, detach the Joy-Cons, put headphones on, you know, babies, baby, toddler, they're sleeping, wife sleeping, doing whatever she's doing. And I'm just laying here and I'm playing my game, right? It's got the right Joy-Con, has a trackpad, so if I need to navigate through windows, absolutely great for doing that, which is, I forgot to mention that in the Ally, because you can use a stick to navigate windows. A lot of people don't care for that, but I can work with it. It's not my preference. I like having a trackpad. But you got the trackpad built into the right Joy-Con. You got the additional buttons on it as well as on the left stick. And the other thing too is it has a disc. So if you want to turn it to a mouse for using what's called FPS mode. So basically the left Joy-Con you can still use as like a traditional like analog stick, which basically when you put in FPS mode, it makes it go WASD, right? So it's still just the analog inputs. And then you've got the right, which you move around, and that makes it so cool because there's a level of precision with that's higher than using just your right thumb for moving around and aiming. So it takes a little bit of getting used to, but I think it's great for that overall. And so I love it for that. Another thing too is outside of the kickstand, the two ports, all that, is it runs cool for the most part. Although initially it used to have a lot of heat buildup in the lower left side, and a little bit of the top will be it would get hot, especially if you're in the higher performance modes. But since several updates have come, it doesn't really get that hot, and they have perfected cooling on this device. The only thing is, I would say, is like if you crank up if you were to crank up the fan, or just turn all fans on full blast, which will keep the device fully cool, it's very, very audible. So that's something to definitely keep in mind too. I don't have many complaints with the Lego on the hardware front. Oh, that's the other thing. The analog sticks. The analog sticks are Hall effect sticks. So you're never gonna have to worry about stick drift or needing to replace them. They're built into it. And the only thing is the dead zone. I know a lot of people talk about dead zone issues. Maybe I just don't pay that much attention to it, but I haven't run into any issues with the Joy-Cons with dead zones or anything like that. So it works fine for me. Like, I can't really complain about it. But people are saying like they want updates to fix the dead zones, and that's one thing I do have to give credit to Lenovo, is the conversation between them and the audience, the consumers, is perfect. It's right there with Valve. There's a line of communication that is just there. Whereas with asus, and mum's the word, they don't really talk about anything. So I got to give credit where credit's due with that. The lines of communication are great. um Now, the one thing I will say, like some knocks to the Lego, is the fact that the Legion space software, it's kind of like a scan and like a central hub where you can find your library for the most part and all this other stuff. So, at launch, it was rough. It was very rough. I would say it didn't perform very well, in my opinion, at least. It was slow, it was buggy, constantly had to load, it was unresponsive in many aspects, or just not launching, period. And, it just felt like it was a front to showcase their partnership with Games Planet, so that you could purchase games at just whatever the discounts the Games Planet has, because, clearly there's a partnership between Lenovo and Games Planet. Now, I will say that the software, since it's been out for a month, the software has gotten better. Legion Space is not perfect. It's not up there with Armory Crate. It's not even in the same parameters as Armory Crate, but it's gotten a lot better. And I do have to give it credit for improving in that aspect. Like it is becoming more responsive, although it's not 100% one-to-one responsive in the way that I would like it to be. There is still some instances where I'll press the Legion Space button on the left Joy-Con and it doesn't respond, or I press the TDP and that doesn't respond on the right Joy-Con. You know, Future software updates are just going to have to fix that as time goes on. So I'm willing to give them grace to have the time to work on it. I know a lot of people are expecting this out the gate, but like I said, when it comes to software, you got to give this stuff time. Preferably this is fixed before a product goes live, but it is what it is. The other thing I will say too is like when people compare Armory Crate to Legion Space, you got to also keep in mind Armory Crate on the Ally has been out for about 6 months, and it's gone through a lot of updates, revisions, and the like. Legion Space is only like a month old at this point, so you got to give it time for there to be a level of parity and for them to revise it, and definitely let them know what you think needs to be improved, because it's the only way it's going to ever get better. All that being aside, though, the absolute worst offender when it comes to anything outside of Legion Space on the Lenovo Legion Go is the D-pad. The D-pad is absolutely garbage, and I don't understand why they went with that D-pad as opposed to something similar to the Ally, or which is a disc shape, or going with something similar to the Razer Raiju, any of the Raiju D-pads, or literally the Wolverine line of Razer controllers, or I don't know, like anything out there, I just feel is better. It's one of the worst D-pads I've used in decades. I'm just gonna say it's probably up there with the Amiga and the CDI and all that other stuff, right? So it's bad. It's really bad. And it's kind of inexcusable for them to have gone with that. I understand that they were putting shooters first as their priority, but a lot of us are gonna want to use the D-pad for fighting games and for platformers, and the latency of the input is bad. So hopefully they'll be selling like modular Joy-Cons, or like like a replacement ones. If you want to improve D-pad, you can buy, because one of the main things I have against it is because it's just awful. Other than that, I'm trying to think of anything else plus or minus for it. Battery life is really good. It's probably got the biggest battery on any of the devices out there, and because there's so many different power profiles and TDP settings, you can pretty much get much better battery life out of it than the Ally. Now, the Steam Deck OLED is going to get the best battery life out of all of it, because it's the Apple experience. It's fully tailored for that device, and tailored for the OS, and tailored for the hardware. So really, it's apple and oranges of comparing that, a Linux device, Windows device. But I really don't have any other issues with the Legion Go. But that's just it. Now, when it comes to between the two devices, which should you go with? Which is the better buy overall? I've listed everything with the Ally that I can think of. I listed everything with the Lego that I can think of. And personally, it comes down to, I feel like this. If you're someone who's going to be playing fighting games, I would say, because of the smaller form factor, the overall better performance, again, the Lego needs more time to get the optimized software and everything, and performance and everything, to get more BIOS updates and such, to get it performing better. Performance wise, the Ally outshines the Lego, not substantially, but in many cases, better performances on the Ally. So if you're playing fighting games, platformers, shooters, you really can't go wrong with the Ally. Just keep in mind the micro SD card issue, which they're still not fully addressing. Maybe they've quietly released some revised models and they just haven't said anything. Like I said, I've gone through 2 RMAs and I've not really had a better experience at all. So I can't really say it, anything else to that. I just, I'm just gonna have to get a internal hard drive and slide it in there and go from there. If you're okay with that, which that process is not very complicated, but if you're not a tech person, they could be. But then again, if you're not a tech person or you're super, casual when it comes to Windows, I don't know why you would get this over something like the Steam Deck. But if you're that's not really an issue with that, or the battery life being not that great is an issue for you, then I would say go with the Lenovo Legion. Well, not the Legion Go. Sorry, I'm trying to talk and then my toddler's talking, so it's like throwing off my train of thought. Bear with me. Um, Anyways, I would say go with the ROG Ally. The other thing with the Ally too, because there's so many units that were returned to Best Buy, if you're going to pick it up from Best Buy, you can probably get one for dirt cheap. I know for the holidays, they're knocking like $80 off of it, and they're two different models. Don't get the Z1, just get the Z1 Extreme. Don't waste your money on the lesser unit. It's not worth it. You can get one for 700 $20 right now during the holidays, typically $6.99. um if you get an open box, you can give it as cheap as like 400 something. Some folks I've heard give one as cheap as 300, and it's a lot of bang for your buck if you know what you're getting into getting that device. um the downside is having to go through three different things to upgrade. So you got, oh, not upgrade, update. Windows updates, Armory Crate updates, and then my asus app updates for BIOS and everything like that. Very annoying that you have to check three different places. If you know what you're going into, it's a hell of a deal, right? Other thing I'm going to mention is with the Lego. So if you're looking at getting that, bigger screen, great battery life, detachable Joy Cons, trackpad above all else. So maneuvering through Windows is a breeze. FPS mode, being able to turn that right Joy-Con into a mouse. No issues with the micro SD card reader, two USB-C slots, and better cooling overall. Can't go wrong with it. Yeah, it didn't have the VRR or variable refresh rate screen, but if you're not looking for it, you're not going to notice it, and it's not that big of a deal. Um, yeah, it's a pretty good deal overall. Performance is going to get better as time goes on, and the fact that you got a 512 and a 1 TB model option, great either way. Get the 1 TB. You'll thank me later when you get that. So between the two, I'm still gonna say the Legion Go is the better buy. Bigger storage, better battery performance, and more ways to game. If you can get past that subpar shitty D-pad, it is great. If you can't and you want a smaller device, the ROG Ally. Better performance as of now, way better D-pad. But I think overall, the Legion Go is the definitive device, or will be once Lenovo does more with updating it. But that's my thoughts on which one is better, the Ally versus Legion Go. Why don't you guys let me know what you think down. If you're watching this on YouTube, the comment section down below. If you're listening, then there's going to be a poll, vote on it, and leave a comment, whatever platform you listen to this on. And if you want to pick up either of these devices, I'll have affiliate links for Best Buy, as well as if you're watching on YouTube, it'll be pinned. And I think Amazon might sell both of them, so I'll have that too. No additional charge to you, but it helps the channel out if you purchase it. Keeps the light on. I got mouths to feed, kids to feed, all that stuff. So also for those who might think, yeah, because I did get a review unit of the Legion Go, I did not get a review unit of the ROG Ally. That doesn't persuade my opinion on either one. And they're not, neither company is paying for this, and this is really a dedicated episode on just my personal thoughts on which one is better overall. I'm also going to be doing a ROG Ally video 6 months later, but then you could literally take from this and get that video too. So all that being said, let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section of whatever platform you're watching or listening to this episode on. And if you enjoyed it, share it around, like it, follow, subscribe, all that stuff. Become a channel member or Patreon for early exclusive access, behind the scenes, and so much more. And yeah, that's all I got to say. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay safe, be blessed, have aloha. I'll see you guys on the next one. Aloha and ahui.